Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolute epic that is Greek mythology. We're talking a cosmic drama filled with power, betrayal, and straight-up revolution.
All right, so where do we even begin? Well, before there were any gods, before anything, there was just chaos. And when I say chaos, don't picture a messy room. Think bigger. We're talking about a vast, formless, gaping nothingness. It's the raw, primordial void where it all kicked off.
And out of this void, the very first beings started to take shape. You get Gaia, who is literally the earth itself, solid, foundational. And then there's Uranus, the sky, arching right over her. And just like that, the cosmos has its first real form.
You know, this whole epic story really boils down to one recurring theme, a cycle of succession. We've got three huge generations of gods, and each one comes to power by, you guessed it, overthrowing the one before. It's a pattern of son against father, and it starts right at the very beginning.
So, let's get into Act 1, the first betrayal. This is where that whole violent cycle really gets set in motion, and believe me, it's a pattern that's going to stick. So Uranus, the sky, and Gaia, the earth, they have kids. And these aren't just any kids. First, you get the 12 Titans, these powerful elemental beings. Then come the Cyclopes, who are these master blacksmiths with one single giant eye. And if that wasn't enough, you've got the 100-handed ones, which are exactly as terrifying as they sound. Just monstrous giants with incredible strength. But here's the thing about Uranus. For a guy who's literally the entire sky, he was terrified of his own children. He looked at the Cyclops and the 100-handed ones and was so freaked out by their power that he imprisoned them. He shoved them right back inside their mother, Gaia, deep within the earth. And this act, this awful, cruel act, it's really the first great crime of the cosmos. Now, as you can imagine, Gaia is in absolute agony. Her grief turns into rage, so she comes up with a plan. She creates this super sharp sickle out of flint, goes to her other kids, the Titans, and basically says, "Your father has done me a terrible wrong. Which one of you is going to help me?" So think about this. The very first transfer of power in the universe is an act of violent rebellion, all fueled by a mother's pain. And who steps up? Only Cronus, the youngest Titan and also the most cunning. He's the one who answers the call, overthrows his own father, and just like that, the age of the Titans begins. Okay, so now Cronus is king. But you know how this goes, right? The way he got to the top by betraying his father comes back to haunt him. The thing that made him king is now the source of his absolute greatest fear. Now, Cronus's reign is actually called the Golden Age, but it's got this dark cloud hanging over it. A prophecy. He was told that he would suffer the same fate as his father, that one of his own kids would overthrow him. And to stop this from ever happening, he does something truly monstrous. Every time his wife, Rhea, has a baby, he swallows it whole. Well, his wife, Rhea, is obviously devastated. After watching 5 of her children get eaten, she's had enough. So for her last child, she comes up with a brilliant plan. She secretly gives birth on the island of Crete, and then she wraps up a rock in a blanket and gives that to Cronus. And he, completely clueless, swallows the rock instead. He thinks he's safe. Meanwhile, that baby Zeus grows up in secret, and he's getting ready for a war between the new generation and the old guard. And this is a really important distinction, right? The Titans, they were all about raw, primal force. But the Olympians, they were different. They were clever, strategic, and driven by very human-like emotions and passions. And what came next was the Titanomachy, the war for the entire cosmos. First, Zeus frees his brothers and sisters by tricking Cronus into throwing them up. Yeah, they come out fully grown. Then he goes down into the deepest, darkest pit of the underworld, Tartarus, to free his monstrous uncles, the Cyclopes and the 100-handed ones. The Cyclopes forge his famous thunderbolts, his uncles join the fight, and for 10 years it is an all-out war that basically tears the universe apart. So, the war is finally over. The Titans are defeated, locked away in Tartarus, and the Olympians are victorious. Now they've got to figure out how to run the place. A completely new world order is about to begin. Now, what's really interesting is how they did it. The 3 main brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, they don't fight over who gets what. Instead, they draw lots, like flipping a coin. Zeus gets the sky and the heavens, Poseidon gets the seas and oceans, and Hades? he gets the underworld. And the earth itself was left as common ground for everyone, which, as you can probably guess, is where a lot of the drama happens.
And this is where we come in, humanity. A titan named Prometheus, who actually sided with the Olympians, is the one who creates mankind out of clay. But these first humans, well, they were pretty helpless, weak, defenseless, and basically living in constant fear.
Prometheus sees this and feels sorry for them. He begs Zeus to give them fire, for warmth, for protection. But Zeus says no. So what does Prometheus do? He commits this incredible act of defiance. He sneaks up to Olympus, steals fire from the gods, and brings it down to mankind. This one act completely changes the game for humanity and the relationship between mortals and gods forever.
So this gift of fire kicks off a whole new era, the Age of Heroes. It's a time when mortals and gods are constantly interacting, sometimes for good, sometimes not so much. But this entire age builds up to one final, massive war that will basically bring it all to a crashing end.
And believe it or not, it all starts with a divine beauty contest. Seriously, someone throws a golden apple into a party that says, "For the fairest," and 3 goddesses all claim it. They can't decide, so they pick a random mortal prince, Paris of Troy, to be the judge. Aphrodite, the goddess of love, offers him the best bribe, the love of the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen of Sparta. And of course, Paris picks her.
So Paris takes Helen back to Troy. The problem is, she's already married, and all of her old suitors had sworn a sacred oath to defend her marriage. So when she's taken, that oath is triggered. A massive Greek army is assembled, and literally 1,000 ships set sail for Troy to get her back. What follows is the Trojan War, and it is the huge, tragic, grand finale of the Age of Heroes. We're talking a 10-year siege. Legendary heroes like Achilles and Hector clashing. The gods are picking sides and interfering directly in the battles. And it all ends with the famous trick of the Trojan horse, which leads to the complete and total destruction of Troy.
And here's the ultimate irony. This war, a war that was started and fueled by the gods' own vanity and meddling, ends up destroying the very age they were a part of. The Age of Heroes is over. After all that bloodshed, the gods pretty much start to withdraw from the world of mortals. Which leaves us with one last question to think about, right? If the gods have retreated and the heroes are gone, why are we still telling these stories? The answer, I think, is that these myths about power, rebellion, fate, they still have so much to tell us about ourselves, even thousands of years after their temples have turned to dust.